All right, let's get into it. We are going to trace this absolutely wild line from a 19th century German poem through one of the most, let's say, dangerous books in philosophy, all the way to a comic book from the 80s that just completely blew the superhero myth apart. Yeah, it's a story about gods, monsters, and the seriously terrifying price of getting everything you ever wanted.
So let's start with this question. Just think about it for a second. What if a superhero really saved the world? I'm not talking about stopping some alien invasion. I mean, what if a godlike being actually solved all of our problems? No more war, no poverty, no disease. And what if that was the biggest catastrophe of all?
Because that right there is the heart of what we're talking about today. A world that looks like paradise on the outside, but it's really a prison. A beautiful, perfect, gilded cage that traps humanity inside, safe and totally, completely meaningless.
And this whole idea really kicks off back in 1982 with Alan Moore's legendary comic series, Miracle Man. This is where that exact scenario plays out, and believe me, it pushes the whole superhero idea right to its absolute breaking point.
You see, Moore's approach was just totally radical for the time. He took this happy-go-lucky Golden Age hero and just dropped him smack dab into our gritty, realistic world. He didn't just give the character a modern makeover, he basically performed a philosophical autopsy on him. He was asking, what would a being with the power of a god actually do to the rest of us?
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Moore's first big move was to take the character's simple, almost childish origin story and just shatter it. He reveals it was all a lie, a really elaborate fantasy built to hide a much, much darker truth. So on the one hand, you've got the myth, this classic, super wholesome 1950s story. But then you get the reality Moore came up with. Those amazing memories of fighting bad guys? Nope. They were just computer simulations, dreams pumped into his brain while his body was basically on ice in some secret lab run by a scientist who couldn't care less about morality.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. The secret government program that created Miracle Man, it had a very, very specific name. It was built around this exact idea from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, the Übermensch, which translates to the Overman, or, well, Superman.
And there you have it. The project's name was Project Zarathustra, named directly after Nietzsche's most famous and maybe most controversial book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Right away, Moore is basically screaming at us that this is not just some story about a guy in a cape. No, this is a full-on debate with Nietzsche's most explosive ideas.
All right, so let's jump over to Nietzsche himself for a minute and see how this all connects. We really need to get a handle on the philosophy that Moore literally baked into the DNA of his story.
Now, what's so cool about this is that Moore actually quotes Nietzsche right in the comic, but he does something absolutely brilliant with it. He takes this one idea and splits it in two. The lightning, the creative, world-building potential of the Overman, that becomes Miracle Man. But the madness, that destructive, nihilistic side, that becomes his terrifying, twisted arch-enemy, Kid Miracle Man. So to explain this whole dangerous process of becoming something more, Nietzsche uses this incredibly powerful metaphor. See, for him it's not about getting to some final, safe destination. It's all about the dangerous journey itself. And he captures that perfectly with the image of a tightrope walker.
So in Nietzsche's philosophy, humanity as we know it, well, we're not the finished product, not even close. We're just a transition. We're a bridge to whatever comes next.
But this bridge is stretched out over this huge, terrifying abyss, an abyss of nihilism, of meaninglessness. It is not a safe crossing, not at all.
And that just perfectly sums up the core idea. The journey to become more what he calls an overgoing is incredibly dangerous. The risk of falling, of failing completely is always there. Greatness, you see, is a high-wire act.
But where did Nietzsche even get this idea, this concept of a hero in danger, walking a tightrope between creating a new world and just total ruin? Well, to get that, we have to peel back one last layer.
Turns out, Nietzsche's whole framework for Zarathustra was massively influenced by an even older German masterpiece, Goethe's epic play, Faust. And when you look at them side by side, you see they're both about the same thing, really, the incredible risks and potential rewards of human ambition.
And what's so wild is that both of these stories are set up as a kind of cosmic bet. In Faust, you've literally got God making a wager with the devil, Mephistopheles, over the soul of one man. In Zarathustra, the bet is even bigger.
It's a wager between the forces of creation and destruction over the entire future of the human race.
And the one thing that decides the bet in both stories is this German word streben. It means striving. It's this relentless, often painful process of always seeking more, of overcoming yourself. In Goethe's story, Faust isn't saved because he's a good guy. He's really not. He's saved because he never stops striving. Redemption isn't about reaching some state of cozy contentment. It's found in the struggle itself.
And that brings us right back to Miracle Man. And this is where it all clicks into place. This is why his perfect world is so horrifying. Once you get this philosophical background, you realize that a world without any struggle, well, it's not paradise. It's its own kind of hell.
So here's the trap, right? Miracle Man's world is basically a kind, gentle dictatorship. It's a perfect world, sure, but it's a perfection that humanity didn't earn. It was just handed down from on high. And by solving every single problem, he takes away the one thing that, according to both Goethe and Nietzsche, actually gives our lives meaning: the struggle, the striving.
And you know, Miracle Man himself gets this on a deeply personal level. To become this perfect God, he has to literally kill his own humanity. He even says it himself. His human alter ego, Michael Moran, the flawed, struggling man he used to be, is dead. He has to shed his humanity to become this perfect, but totally remote and alien God.
And that's the ultimate tragedy of the whole story, isn't it? The hero, in his mission to create a perfect world, ends up destroying the very things that make us human. He takes away our right to fail, our right to struggle, and our right to overcome things on our own.
So the final price for this utopia is absolute. Every problem solved, every challenge conquered. And what's left for humanity to strive for? Nothing. The tightrope is gone. And in its place is a very comfortable, very safe cage. Which leaves us with one last, kind of haunting question to think about. In a world with no pain, no risk, no need for guts or ambition, what essential part of us just withers and dies? What do we lose when the only challenge left is to figure out how to survive perfection?